Hey there, I'm Kevin Downey, and I run an agency called Kevin M. Downey where we help B2B companies with their sales and marketing efforts. This includes sales and business development, representative recruiting, as well as email marketing to drive inbound leads for our B2B clients. So this video, it's kind of a big one. 5 steps to building a business development system from ground zero in a B2B company. Okay, so I want to walk through the parts you really should be thinking about, especially if you're a startup, a business to business startup, or you're smaller and you're just not able to figure it out, tried a lot of things, some things working okay, some things not really. Let's talk about the big picture of what works and how you build the system from scratch. So that's what I'm going to do in this video today. Okay, first let's do an intro. What works to drive daily lead flow in B2B? Okay, so I want to think about some of the things. I'm going to come back to this kind of at the end, but some of the things that clients who come to us do, particularly from the marketing person side of their company, to drive themselves potential customers, prospects, leads, appointments, so on and so forth. So those are some of the media. You've got trade shows, awesome in B2B. If you have relevant trade shows you can do, great, they're awesome. Targeted digital advertising, most B2B and marketing are going to do probably LinkedIn, might do YouTube, possibly Facebook, Instagram kind of thing, but for the most part it's a LinkedIn thing. PPC and SEO. Certainly, if you have enough searches, which is always a challenge in B2B, PPC and SEO certainly can be effective. It can drive leads and appointments. It can ROI, but they all have the same common problem. Last couple of things: direct mail, not very much utilized by B2B companies anymore, but if you're going to principals in small business, can be very, very effective, especially micro business targeting. And then finally, for some, this doesn't apply, of course, but webinars. Webinars can be very effective from an ROI standpoint for B2B lead generation and customer acquisition. However, it only applies to certain kinds of products and services in B2B, more service related. And certainly you have to put on really good webinars, so it's hard to do well. Certainly I'm not an expert at it. I've seen a couple of good ones, but you got to put on a great webinar and you've got to drive a lot of traffic to make that webinar effective. So that's the biggest challenge in that group. But if you have the right thing and you've got the expertise and the resources to put on a great webinar, it can be really effective. Okay, what do all of these things have in common in B2B? They're all intermittent, to some degree, lesser or greater. Trade shows being one of the most popular things in B2B. Certainly you've got targeted digital advertising and PPC and SEO. The reality is really hard for those things to drive you daily lead flow in business to business companies, right? They all can drive you leads. They can all work, but they're typically all intermittent. They're only just part of the year or here and there or very spotty. So what are the things that drive daily lead flow? If you're looking for daily lead flow for sales reps, part of which is them, right? What are the things that work? Well, I've been doing, recruiting and training of sales reps in business to business companies for 10 years, email marketing for 7, have put out over 100 million emails at this point for clients over 7 plus years. What are the things that drive daily lead flow? Reps doing manualized outreach, can be boots on the ground, or it could be targeted manualized outreach with inside reps, whether sales or business development, whoever it is. Targeted outreach by phone, email, manual email, a little bit of LinkedIn maybe, although that's waning in effectiveness for most, or boots on the ground. That's one side. It's rep driven, rep outreach. That's still going to be the anchor in almost every B2B company. High powered email marketing, when done correctly, can be an anchor in a business to business company. You have to have the requisite targets to go after. So when we're building a prospect list for a client looking at doing email with us, and we have to do this obviously before they even sign as a client, I need to see at least 50, 60,000 contacts to go after, but prefer 100,000. So certainly anybody that's nationwide typically is going to have enough, but especially if you're not too niche and you're nationwide, you usually are going to have enough contacts to go after. But anybody that targets locally, Anybody that has a very niche audience, say certain kinds of manufacturers in the manufacturing and industrial space, sometimes their target audiences can be really narrow. And other things can, come across me all the time. I build prospect lists for, and it's only like, 5 or 10, 15,000. That's not a high-powered email thing, right? That's a manualized outreach thing, okay? But daily lead flow is reps doing manualized outreach, boots on the ground or inside, old, business development, old school kind of telemarketing in a way, and high-powered email marketing, okay? So how do we go about building our business development process? First thing, I already alluded to it, you got to build a prospect list. Recommend Apollo. I've got a link to it in the description here in the YouTube video. Build yourself a prospect list, people search in Apollo, and you want to identify, is it big enough for high-powered email to be an anchor in your business development system? Again, we're looking for 50 or 60,000 contacts to go after. If you got enough, email is a really, really powerful tool. You're going to get more leads for your dollar with email than you're going to get with reps doing manualized outreach for sure, but it's hard to do well for most companies. And it's only an anchor. It is not going to be the only thing that you do unless, and we have a couple clients in these spaces, you have something that applies to almost every company out there, and you're hitting a lot of different titles. You're hitting small business owners. You may be hitting marketing and event people. You may be hitting HR. You may be hitting procurement, buyer, supply chain type titles, office and admin titles like corporate gift, promotional products, sometimes print. I'm trying to think of a few other things that we've dealt with over the years or deal with that have really wide audiences, 500,000, a million contacts to go after. For those kinds of things, email can be your exclusive anchor, and manualized outreach isn't necessary by reps. It's all inbound leads. But that is, again, very, very limited type of B2B company where that's true. Okay, but you want to build that prospect list in Apollo, see if it's big enough for it to be an anchor in your business development system. Second thing, if it's applicable, you need to set up your email marketing system, right? So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I've got other videos on that. You don't want to dig into that on this video. We don't want to go that deep, but you've got to set up your email marketing system, which you want to have the right CMS, whether it's Apollo, whether it's Smart Lead, Salesforce, whatever. And you obviously have to have a vehicle to send emails through, right? Your ESP emails on your main domain aren't going to cut it. You want to have an email API, or you've got to have, again, dedicated domains and lots of email addresses. On one structure we build for clients, you're looking at 34 domains, 100 email addresses to do 60,000 outbound a month, right? So you got to set up a very sound email marketing system to be able to push out that kind of volume, right? Set up your email marketing. Okay. Third thing, you've got to build a business development process for your sales or BDRs, right? For your sales team or your BDRs. So that means, what do you do as a process to do outreach, right? We give you the prospect list. What are you doing from there? Identifying decision maker, identifying general pain point, specific pain point. General pain point doesn't always apply, but you've got to do those things. Are they interested, right? Do they produce hazardous waste? You're a hazardous waste processing company, right? First thing is you got to double check. Do they produce hazardous waste? That's general pain point. Okay, great. Now that you do, and we know that, what are you doing to process that hazardous waste right now? Are you doing it internally? Do you have a vendor that you're using? So on and so forth. Are you looking for help in that regard? Are you not happy with your current vendor? Is your internal process not really working for you, right? Now we find specific pain point, right? Then we've got to get them information about our products or services, call to action to drive a call to sales. And then, of course, if it's BDRs on the phone, they're going to work on getting a scheduled call for sales right then and there, of course, right? If it's the sales team, they already have them on the call, so they don't have to do that. Might have to do a follow-up appointment, but that said, that's how you do it. You got to build that process. All right? An important point nowadays for a lot of B2B companies that have account executive, account managers, as they increase their book of business. So they both have to prospect and find new customers, but then they also manage their customers, right? So if they have to do that, right, over time, when they acquire customers, their prospecting efforts start to wane. And we see this a lot in companies now as a problem. They get 25%, 50%, 75% full with 25 and 50% in particular full with customers. They get enough business and things to do day to day that they've got to kind of deal with customers. And that cold outreach seems to really slide down on the priority list, and they just never get to it. There's always something that's interrupting them to keep them from doing it. So my advice to you as a company, if you're experiencing this at all or have, you have to look at your reps. How many customers do they have? How many customers can they have? Can they manage? Just fuzzy math, all things being equal. And so what percentage of their time should be dedicated to current customers? And then the balance of the time needs to be dedicated to prospecting. So if they're 50% full with customers, they should be spending, out of their 40-hour work week, they should be spending 20 hours on prospecting. It is very important and useful to schedule them on that time. So they can come in the door in the office, deal with customers from the overnight stuff, late stuff from the day before, and get it done pretty quick, 30 minutes, an hour. Then they got 4 hours they got to be prospecting. And they cannot look at email. They can't reply to anything. They can't do any meetings. Can't do anything else. They got to prospect for 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's the kind of thing you got to do these days to keep your reps on task with their prospecting and cold outreach. Okay? You got to hold them accountable. All right. We talked about this at the beginning. After you build that whole process and you've got your daily lead flow humming, now you implement additional marketing strategies. Again, trade show, targeted digital advertising, PPC SEO, direct mail, webinars, whatever. There are other things I'm not even mentioning there, right? Then you can implement those things into your business development to drive even more leads for your sales team or your SDRs, for example, to follow up with, qualify, and move them to sales, right? And now, bonus reporting mechanism for reps, daily call report, goes back to holding them accountable, helping them hold themselves accountable. So they need structured time in many cases to do their cold outreach. They need to be dedicated to it for whatever time in a day. It may only be an hour a day, maybe 4 hours a day, like I talked about, but it helps if you can give them a reporting mechanism to hold themselves accountable and something you can look at with them on a weekly basis, right? So we have a very simple thing we use internally and we provide to clients at free of charge. Basically, we build a Google form for the rep that they fill out, takes them 30 seconds, number of calls per day, number of decision makers reached, number of emails sent, number of qualified leads, number of appointments set, whatever it is. They fill that out very quickly, and then it feeds into a reporting mechanism in Google Sheets, and it shows their daily numbers, and then we can have an auto report for rolling weekly and 30-day averages for that rep, so that if you have multiple reps, you can look at it on one screen. You're a sales manager or an owner. Very effective. It's very simple to implement. Again, we provide it to our clients for free that do recruiting or email through us. But at the end of the day, very, very valuable way to help the reps help themselves, hold themselves accountable, right? That's really when it works best, that they're not doing it just for you, they're doing it for themselves. Okay, so hopefully that helps you. You need help with business development process, recruiting, sales, or business development reps, email marketing, reach out to us, kevinmdowney.com. Thanks for being here today. Really appreciate it. Best of luck in business, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.